I paid off my wife's $78,000 debt. Then she vanished without a word. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm a civil engineer. I build things like bridges, roads, drainage systems, things meant to last. I guess I always thought love worked the same way, that if you lay a strong enough foundation, reinforce it with patience, and weather a few storms, it'll stand the test of time. I was wrong. 3 years ago, I paid off $78,000 in debt. None of it was mine. Every cent belonged to the woman I married, the woman I believed would walk with me through the rest of my life. I didn't pay it off because I was rich. I wasn't. I took on more work. I skipped vacations. I sold the truck my dad gave me. I gave up a chunk of my life for someone else's mistakes because I believed in second chances. And in her. Her name was Tessa. She came into my life like a gust of wind through a cracked window. Quiet at first, then impossible to ignore. She was beautiful, clever, always a little sad around the eyes. I mistook that sadness for depth, maybe even for strength. The first time she told me about her debt, she cried, said it wasn't just hers, that it came from trying to help her family, from an ex who ruined her credit and ghosted her. She said she was just trying to survive, and I believed her. Every word. We dated for less than a year before we got married. Everyone thought it was fast. My brother Ryan even pulled me aside the night before the wedding and said, "Ethan, are you sure she loves you or just what you do for her?" I laughed. Told him he was being cynical, that he didn't understand Tessa like I did. Truth is, I didn't understand her either. Our wedding was small, modest, no fancy venue. Just a beach, some fairy lights, and promises I meant with my whole soul. And after that, I got to work. I worked like a man possessed. I took on back-to-back contracts, extra shifts, even side hustles. I told myself it would all be worth it, that one day we'd wake up debt-free, stress-free, and finally start living. But by the time the debt disappeared, so did Tessa. No goodbye, no explanation. Just a single handwritten note on our kitchen counter that said, "Don't try to find me. I need something more." That's it. At first I was numb, then furious, then hollow. I kept replaying the same question in my head over and over again. Was any of it real? This story isn't about revenge. I didn't burn her clothes. I didn't track her down or take her to court, and even though I could have. No. This story is about something else. What happens when love turns into a transaction, and the receipt never comes? If you've ever given someone everything, your time, your trust, your hard-earned money, and they still walked away like it was never enough, then sit with me a while, because I'm going to tell you the whole story, the good, the bad, the parts I'm proud of, and the parts I wish I could forget. This isn't just about heartbreak. It's about what we give, what we lose, and the quiet dignity of surviving anyway. Chapter 1. The Debt I Never Owed. When I first met Tessa, it was raining. Not the heavy kind of rain that makes you run for cover, but that light, steady drizzle that soaks you before you even realize it. I was standing outside a bookstore in downtown Denver, holding a broken umbrella, cursing under my breath because I had just finished a 12-hour shift and I couldn't find my car key. That's when I heard a laugh behind me. Not mocking, not sharp, just soft and amused. "You look like you've had a week," she said. I turned around and there she was, Tessa. Brown leather coat, red lipstick, holding a hot coffee with both hands. She offered me a second cup like she had planned this moment all day. I didn't know then that she'd change everything. We talked under the awning for an hour. I forgot about the key. I forgot about the rain. There was something about her. She made everything feel lighter. Like maybe life didn't have to be so rigid, so scheduled, so engineered. I asked for her number, and she smiled like she'd been waiting for me to ask. We started dating 2 days later. Tessa had a job as a receptionist at a local wellness clinic. Not glamorous, but steady. She said she loved helping people feel better, even in small ways. I admired that. But over time, the little details started to surface. She never wanted to go to restaurants that required splitting the bill. Her phone would buzz late at night, and she'd always turn it face down. Whenever I offered to pay for something, even something small, she'd protest. but never more than once. About 6 months in, we were lying on my couch on a Sunday morning and I mentioned something about getting a joint savings account. Just in the future, if things got serious. She went quiet. Then she sat up. "There's something you should know," she said. I could tell it was hard for her. Her voice was shaky, eyes flicking away from mine. "I have debt, Ethan, a lot of it." "How much?" I asked gently. 78,000, she said, barely a whisper. I won't lie, I was stunned. I wasn't a millionaire, I made good money, sure, but I budgeted tightly. I was saving for a house, retirement, maybe a honeymoon someday. "Student loans?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "No, well, some of it. But it's mostly credit cards and an ex. An ex-boyfriend," she explained. A man who'd convinced her to open accounts in her name to help him out while he chased a business idea. It tanked. He ghosted. She was stuck. She cried when she told me, said she felt stupid, used, broken. I remember putting my arms around her and saying, "You're not broken. You were just too kind to the wrong person." What I didn't realize was, I had just stepped into that same pattern. Tessa moved into my apartment 3 months later. She insisted on paying her share, but it wasn't much. I didn't mind. I told myself we were a team. That love meant picking up slack when the other person was drowning. I started taking more engineering contracts, longer hours, overnight site visits. I missed birthdays, skipped Sunday dinners with my mom. But every time I came home and saw her on the couch in one of my hoodies, smiling at me like I was the only man in the world, I thought, this is worth it. She'd say things like, "I don't deserve you. I've never had someone fight for me like this. One day when this is behind us, I'm going to make it all up to you." I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. In year 2, I sold my truck. Not just any truck, it was my dad's. He passed it down to me before he died of lung cancer. It still smelled like his cologne. I cried when I handed over the keys. But the look on Tessa's face when I told her the final $15K of her debt was gone, she didn't cry. She just said, "Finally." Like she had been carrying a weight she couldn't wait to unload. Not a word about my dad's truck. Not a hug. Just a long, tired sigh. And then she went to bed early. That night something shifted in me. We stopped having real conversations. She started spending more time out with friends, but never invited me. Her phone lived in her back pocket face down. We stopped being a team. I told myself it was just a phase, that after years of financial stress she was just decompressing. But part of me, the engineer part, started to spot the cracks. And this time, they weren't in the road. They were in us. I remember coming home early from a site one afternoon and finding her in the kitchen on a video call. She didn't hear me come in. "Yeah, he's sweet," she said, laughing. "But he's not exciting, you know, he's just safe." I froze. Then she saw me. We stared at each other for a full 3 seconds. She hung up. No apology, no explanation, just "Don't eavesdrop, Ethan." That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed next to her and listened to her breathing. And I realized something devastating. I had mistaken stability for love. She didn't love me. She loved what I did for her. The debts I erased, the peace I built around her chaos. But when there was nothing left to fix, no emergency to solve, I was no longer necessary. Still, I didn't leave. Not then. Because I wasn't just trying to save a marriage, I was trying to prove to myself that I hadn't been a fool. That the years, the sacrifices, the late nights and broken truck meant something. But I was wrong, again. 3 weeks later, I came home and found the note. One line, black ink, neat handwriting. "Don't try to find me, I need something more." No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. Chapter 2, A House with No Walls. When Tessa left, it wasn't just that she was gone. It was the silence. No clinking of coffee mugs in the morning. No half-sung melodies from the bathroom as she got ready. No scent of her perfume lingering in the hall. She didn't just exit my life, she vacuum-sealed it behind her. For the first few days, I thought I was okay. I cleaned the apartment, did laundry, sorted the junk drawer. I fixed things that didn't need fixing, anything but sit still. Because when I sat still, I heard her voice, her laughter, her lies. I didn't tell anyone she left, not at first. Not my mom, not my coworkers, not even Marcus, my best friend since college. Part of me was embarrassed. The rest of me still believed she might come back. I started rereading our old messages, photos, love notes, trying to locate the moment it all started to rot. Was it when I took that second contract out of state? Was it when I missed her birthday because I was on site? Or had I just imagined the whole thing from the start? About a week after she left, I caved. I drove to the coffee shop we used to go to every Saturday morning. The one with the sticky floors and mismatched chairs. The one where she used to hold my hand across the table and tell me she was scared of dying alone. I asked the barista, "Have you seen Tessa around lately?" She looked at me like I was a stranger. "Tessa? Brown coat, red lipstick, comes in on weekends?" She shook her head slowly. "Oh, you mean the girl with the guy in the leather jacket?" My heart stopped. "Guy?" She nodded. "Yeah, they were here last week, seemed pretty into each other." I managed to thank you and walked out. The sidewalk felt like it was tilting. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, staring at the books on the shelf. Most of them were mine, but 3 of them weren't. One was a poetry book I'd bought her for Christmas. Another was a battered copy of The Bell Jar. And the third, Healing from Emotional Abuse, was one she had picked up during her growth phase, as she called it. I opened it, half curious. A receipt fell out. Not for the book, but for a dinner. A fancy one, 2 weeks before she left, 2 entrees, wine, dessert. It was charged to her card, but she hadn't told me about it. That night, I stopped lying to myself. She had been leaving me for months. She just waited until I couldn't be useful anymore. I thought she was healing. In reality, she was upgrading. I was the scaffolding she stood on while building her next version of herself. I went to work the next day, but everything felt hollow. Numbers blurred. Blueprints didn't make sense. I stared at beams and bolts and concrete specs and thought, none of this matters. I built a life that still fell apart. Marcus noticed. He's the kind of friend who doesn't need explanations, just shows up. He came by with beer, sat on the floor next to me and said, "You're not gonna say it, so I will. She didn't deserve you." I stayed silent. Then he added, "But maybe you didn't deserve her either." I looked at him. "What's that supposed to mean?" He shrugged. "I mean, not the real her, just the version you built in your head. You were in love with the idea of fixing something that was always cracked at the core." That stung, because it was true. I didn't love Tessa the way she was. I loved the version of her I thought I could save. The girl who cried over bills. The girl who apologized for being broken. The girl who promised to become better. For me. But Tessa wasn't broken. She was just good at looking fragile. Good at hiding sharp edges under soft eyes. One day I found myself driving past her old apartment, not even sure what I was looking for. Closure, maybe. I parked across the street and waited. Round 6 p.m. she came out, laughing, wearing a coat I'd bought her. On her arm, a man, tall, confident, leather jacket. Not once did she glance my way. Not once did she look over her shoulder. It wasn't a goodbye for her. It was a graduation. That night I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I did something worse. I sat in the dark and felt nothing. No rage, no sadness, just numbness. Like my heart had gone offline. In the weeks that followed, I tried everything. Running, therapy, journaling, even dating apps. But every woman I spoke to felt like a reminder of what I'd lost. Or rather, what I never really had. I remember one woman at a bar asked me, "So what are you looking for?" I paused for a long time before answering. "I'm just trying to remember who I was before I became someone else's lifeboat." Eventually, I started putting the pieces back together. Slowly, clumsily, but honestly. I didn't try to become better to prove something. I didn't try to pretend she hadn't mattered. Instead, I learned to sit with the truth. That loving someone doesn't obligate them to stay, and saving someone doesn't mean they'll thank you for it. I got a dog, named him Rusty. He never lied, never left, never wore red lipstick and told me I was safe. I started seeing my mom again, started fixing up that old motorcycle in the garage, stopped checking my phone for her name. And one day I built something, not a house, not a blueprint, a letter. I didn't send it, but I wrote it. To Tessa, I hope you're happy, truly. I hope you find whatever more you were looking for. I hope he gives it to you. I hope you sleep well at night. But more than that, I hope one day when you look back, you remember me not as the man who tried to fix you, but as the man who loved you so hard that he broke himself in the process. Because that's who I was. Not perfect, not thrilling, but real. And while you may have left me without warning, I will never regret the nights I stayed, the debts I paid, the love I gave freely. Because now I know I never owed you anything, but I gave you everything. And that makes me stronger than you'll ever be. Ethan. Chapter 3, The Unraveling. Theme: suspicion turns into revelation. Ethan can't shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong, and as he begins investigating, his world starts to fracture. A month after the debt was fully paid, something about Harper began to shift. It started small. She stopped kissing Ethan goodbye in the mornings. Their nightly talks on the couch, once warm and habitual, now dissolved into her glued to her phone, chuckling at messages she wouldn't explain. She said it was just a group chat with her friends from the gym. Ethan wanted to believe her. But doubt has a funny way of growing like rust, quiet and persistent. One Saturday morning, Ethan made breakfast like he always did. Scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee just the way Harper liked it. She walked into the kitchen, hair wrapped in a towel, phone pressed to her ear. She barely acknowledged him. "I'll be there in 30, she said to whoever was on the other end. She ended the call, grabbed her keys, and walked out. "Where are you going?" Ethan called after her. She paused at the door. "Just yoga." She didn't make eye contact. Ethan stood there, spatula in hand, the eggs burning. That was the third yoga class that week. Harper had never cared for yoga before. Now she was obsessed with it, but oddly secretive. No mats in the car, no receipts. And whenever he offered to drive her, she refused. It didn't sit right. One night, Ethan stayed up late working on blueprints for a project, but Harper never came home. At 1:30 a.m., the front door finally creaked open. She tiptoed inside, startled when she saw him awake. "You're still up?" "I was working. You said the yoga class ended at 9. I had dinner with Tessa after. You don't know her." "Tessa who?" "A friend from yoga." Ethan stared at her. Her eyes darted. Her cheeks flushed. She reeked of perfume, not hers, something richer. And it wasn't the lie that stung most. It was how little effort she put into hiding it. A week later, Ethan received an envelope in the mailbox with no return address. Inside, 2 printed photos. One of Harper, at a rooftop restaurant, holding hands across the table with a man Ethan didn't recognize. The second was a zoomed-in shot, Harper leaning in, lips brushing the man's cheek. Ethan's hands trembled. For a long time, he didn't move. He just sat on the steps of the porch, staring at the pictures. The engine of betrayal had been humming beneath the surface, and now it roared into full volume. He didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, he called out sick from work the next day and followed her. She didn't go to yoga. She drove across town, parked at a hotel, and entered the lobby without hesitation. 30 minutes later, Ethan saw her again, this time walking out of the hotel, arm in arm with the same man from the photos. They laughed. She leaned into him. And then, like a blade twisting in Ethan's heart, she kissed him. Right there on the sidewalk, in daylight, like Ethan didn't exist. That night, Ethan waited until she was in the kitchen. He laid the photos on the table. Harper froze when she saw them. "I followed you today," Ethan said calmly. "I know everything." She stared at the images in silence. Ethan's voice cracked. "Why?" She looked up, no shame in her eyes. "Because I'm not in love with you anymore, Ethan. I haven't been for years." The words hit harder than the photos. "Then why did you stay?" "Because I needed help. You paid off everything, and now I'm free." Ethan's chest heaved. "You used me." She didn't deny it. "I should have left long ago," she muttered almost to herself. Ethan could barely speak. "You let me believe we had something real." "We had something convenient," she said coldly. "You were just too naive to see it." Harper packed her things that night. No apologies, no tears. She was efficient, like someone leaving a hotel room. Ethan sat in the living room, surrounded by silence and the ghosts of their memories. The pictures on the wall, the wedding album on the shelf, the coffee mug she gave him on his birthday, all suddenly meaningless. By morning she was gone. She didn't leave a note, not even a goodbye. just an empty drawer where her clothes used to be. 2 weeks passed. Ethan spent the time barely functioning, going through work on autopilot, eating takeout, sleeping on the couch, replaying every moment of the last 3 years, searching for signs he missed. One afternoon, his phone buzzed, a number he didn't recognize. "Is this Ethan Cole?" the voice asked. "Yes. I think we should talk. My name is Darren." It was him, the man from the hotel, the one Harper had left with. "What the hell do you want?" Ethan snapped. "I didn't know she was married." Ethan's pulse slowed. "She told me you were her ex, that you abandoned her after taking out loans in her name. She played the victim." Ethan almost laughed, bitter, broken. "That's what she does." Darren sighed. "She maxed out my credit card last week, $12,000. I tried confronting her, she disappeared." Ethan felt a strange calm wash over him. "Yeah, she's good at that." That night, Ethan stood in front of the mirror. He wasn't the same man who once made Sunday pancakes and left flowers on her car seat. That man had been dismantled, one lie at a time. But something else had replaced him. Not vengeance, not hatred. Clarity. He whispered to his reflection, "She thought I was weak." And for a moment he smiled, because she was wrong. Chapter 4. The Cold Rebuild. Ethan rises from betrayal with clarity and resolve, not to win Harper back, but to take back his life. He stops being the man people walk over. This act is strategic, cathartic, and emotionally focused on self-reclamation. It's been 6 weeks since Harper walked out. Ethan's house still smells like her perfume. Her ghost lingers in the bathroom drawer, where her old hair ties still sit, unnoticed. But Ethan doesn't flinch at those remnants anymore. He doesn't delete them. He leaves them there to remind himself, not out of bitterness, out of discipline. Every morning now starts with a run at 5:30 a.m. No music, just breath and gravel and the rhythm of forward motion. He's cut back on drinking, started cooking again, reading books instead of staring at the wall. He's not just moving on, he's reinventing. But he doesn't tell anyone about it, not yet. One afternoon at his engineering firm, Ethan is pulled into a meeting. A major contract has opened up, one the firm has been eyeing for months. A green tech construction project in Denver. Big money, high profile, and it needs a lead. Ethan expects his boss to choose someone else. Instead, she looks at him. "You want it?" He hesitates. "Why me?" She shrugs. "You've been sharper lately, focused, driven. I think this version of you is who we need." He nods. "I'll take it." A few days after the Denver contract is announced, Harper sends a message. Just one line. "Can we talk?" Ethan doesn't respond. Not out of pride, but because she no longer holds priority. But she shows up anyway. Outside his house, standing on the porch, holding a bag of his favorite coffee beans like a peace offering. He opens the door and leans on the frame. "What do you want?" Her voice is small. "I was wrong." Ethan doesn't blink. "Which part? The part where you used me, or the part where you left the moment I stopped being convenient?" "I didn't mean to hurt you," she says. "You didn't mean to," he echoes, "but you did on purpose." Harper tries to explain. The man she left with drained her accounts, disappeared. She has nothing, she needs help. Ethan shakes his head. "I don't owe you anything anymore." Her face contorts, not out of heartbreak, but disbelief. Harper had always seen Ethan as the soft place to fall. Now she realizes the softness is gone. "You changed," she whispers. "No," Ethan says, "I woke up." He closes the door. With Harper out of the picture for good, Ethan turns his focus to the Denver project. He immerses himself completely, designs, leads, delivers. 6 months pass, he becomes known for results, reliability, quiet intensity. He no longer overshares or tries to be liked. He simply shows up and performs, and people begin to follow his lead. His promotion becomes permanent. His name starts circulating in industry circles. But the real change isn't what's in his bank account. It's what's in his backbone. One night, Ethan receives an email from an unknown address. It's from Darren, the man Harper cheated with. The message is short. "She's trying to contact me again, asking for help. Same pattern, just thought you should know." Ethan stares at the screen for a moment, then hits delete. Later that evening, Ethan walks out to his porch with a mug of black coffee. He sits in the same chair where he once cried the night Harper left. Only now the silence feels cleaner. There's no weight on his chest, no ache in his stomach, just space. He looks at the stars, remembering who he used to be. The man who gave too much, excused too many lies, and thought love was measured by sacrifice. That man is gone. In his place sits someone forged by pain, not bitter but awake, grounded. He whispers to the night, "She thought she broke me," then takes a slow sip of coffee. "She made me." Chapter 5, The Afterlife of Pain. Ethan has moved past Harper, past bitterness, past needing closure. This is about building a legacy, not to prove anything to others, but to honor what he survived and who he chose to become. The Denver project is done. It's a success. It puts Ethan's name on the map. He's offered speaking slots at conferences. Startups approach him with collaboration ideas. Investors reach out. He accepts only one of those offers. A green housing startup pitched by a woman named Lila, an architect with a brain like a scalpel and a spine like steel. She doesn't remind him of Harper, that's the point. Ethan isn't looking for someone to complete him anymore. He's already whole. On an ordinary Saturday, Ethan walks into a small bookstore downtown. As he browses the engineering section, he hears someone behind him clear their throat. He turns. It's Harper. She looks different. Not older, just dimmer. Like her brightness burned too hot and finally ran out of fuel. "Ethan," she says softly. He nods once. "Harper, I saw your name in a magazine," she says. "You're doing really well." "I am." There's silence between them. She seems to want something from him. Not money, not pity. Just a spark of what they used to have. Proof she wasn't the villain. But Ethan gives her nothing, because he owes her nothing. "I'm happy for you," she says. "I hope you find peace," Ethan replies. Then walks away. Ethan now mentors young engineers. Not in formal settings, just small groups, late-night coffee meetups, emails from lost students. He tells them what no one told him. Don't trade your peace to be someone else's hero. Love shouldn't feel like survival. Know your worth, then add tax. Lila becomes a quiet presence in Ethan's life. She doesn't rush him, doesn't try to fix him. She respects the time he takes to heal. They talk about real things, loss, rebuilding, boundaries. One night, over a dinner of grilled salmon and jazz music humming from a record player, she asks him, "What scares you more, being hurt again or never letting anyone in?" He smiles. "I used to think those were the same thing, now I know they're not." And he lets her in, not because he needs her, but because he chooses to. Years later, Ethan writes a letter to Harper. He never sends it. It reads, "You taught me what I would never again accept. For that I thank you. I forgive you not because you earned it, but because I refuse to carry you anymore. You lost a man who would have walked through fire for you. That's not my burden now. That's yours." He burns the letter in a fire pit, watches it turn to ash. The house feels different now, brighter. There's artwork on the walls, not just blueprints. Books line the shelves, philosophy, design, healing. Not just engineering manuals. The bed is neatly made. The garden outside is flourishing. It's a home again. One night, Ethan stands on the porch watching a thunderstorm roll in. The sky splits open with lightning, but he's calm, not because the storm isn't violent, but because he's weathered worse and come out better. He turns to go back inside, whispering to the night, "Pain didn't ruin me, it rebuilt me." The final shot is of Ethan smiling as he walks into a lecture hall. He's not there to study. He's there to teach. The story ends not with revenge, not even with romance. It ends with power, with clarity, with peace.